Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Senate has passed a sweeping reform of financial regulation that's been described as the biggest overhaul of financial rules since the 1930s. The 59-39 vote came largely along party lines. Two Democratic senators, Russ Feingold of Wisconsin and Maria Cantwell of Washington, voted against the bill, saying it does not go far enough to prevent economic meltdown. Four Republicans also broke party ranks to support the measure. Shortly before the final vote was held, President Obama praised the bill at the White House.
Because of financial reform, the American people will never again be asked to foot the bill for Wall Street's mistakes. There will be no more taxpayer-funded bailouts, period. If a large financial institution should ever fail, we will have the tools to wind it down without endangering the broader economy. And there will be new rules to prevent financial institutions from becoming too big to fail in the first place, so that we don't have another AIG.
The bill now appears headed to a House-Senate conference committee where lawmakers will work to resolve differences between the two chambers. We'll have more after headlines. BP has acknowledged its estimates of the amount of oil leaking into the Gulf of Mexico were too low. On Thursday, BP said it's now capturing 5,000 barrels of oil a day from the leaking pipe, the same amount it had previously said was leaking every day. The Environmental Protection Agency, meanwhile, has ordered BP to use a new chemical dispersant to break up the oil leaking into the Gulf, citing concerns around the initial dispersant's effect on marine life. We'll have more on the BP oil spill later in the broadcast. Dennis Blair has announced his resignation as Director of National Intelligence after 16 months on the job. The move comes just 2 days after a Senate report criticized Blair's office for newly uncovered lapses before the failed Christmas Day airline bombing. Blair reportedly decided to resign this week after being informed President Obama is looking to appoint a replacement. Blair is the highest-ranking Obama administration official to step down. New figures show claims for unemployment benefits have increased for the first time in 5 weeks. The Labor Department says jobless claims topped 471,000 last week, an increase of over 5%. The 3 U.S. hikers jailed in Iran were reunited with their visiting mothers on Thursday for the first time since their arrest last July. Shane Bauer, Sarah Shord, and Josh Fatal were detained after straying across Iran's border during a hiking trip in northern Iraq. Their mothers arrived in Tehran this week after a long campaign to win approval to visit their children. In their first public appearance since their detention, the 3 hikers discussed their ordeal in prison. Sarah Shord said she spends most of her days in solitude.
Humanitarian gesture. It means everything in the world to us. I've been thinking about seeing my mother's face and seeing her smile and looking into her eyes for a really long time.
Our treatment is decent. It's really difficult being alone. Shane and Josh are in the room together, but I'm alone, and that's the most difficult thing for me. But I see them twice a day, so we have good food and we have medical care, which is appreciated, and we're reading materials and television.
The 3 hikers have been held on espionage charges and could face trial. Shane Bauer told reporters he maintains hope for being released.
That Iran can continue with humanitarian gestures like letting our mothers come by releasing us on humanitarian grounds.
If you'd like to hear Shane Bauer's report before he was arrested for Democracy Now!, he's a freelance journalist, you can go to our website at democracynow.org. Mexican President Felipe Calderón is urging the U.S. to reinstate the assault weapons ban. Speaking before a joint session of Congress, Calderón said violence has spiked in Mexico since the ban expired in 2004. Calderón also renewed his criticism of Arizona's recent anti-immigrant law.
It is a law that not only ignores a reality that cannot be erased by decree, but also introduces a terrible idea using racial profiling as a basis for law enforcement. And that is why I agree with the President, who said the new law carries a great amount of risk when core values that we all care about are breached.
The U.S. military says it's opened a probe into the unlawful killings of at least 3 Afghan civilians. A number of soldiers are said to be under investigation, including one who's been detained in pretrial confinement. The Pentagon says the soldiers are also being probed for illegal drug use, assault, and conspiracy. The island nation of the Maldives is hosting informal peace talks between representatives from the Taliban and the Afghan government. Afghan President Hamid Karzai is said to oppose the meeting, but has sent observers to take part. In Israel and the occupied territories, the Israeli government's pressuring the Palestinian Authority to call off a boycott of West Bank settlements. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas signed an order last month barring Palestinians from working in Israeli settlements and selling settlement products. On Thursday, Israeli Trade and Labor Minister Benjamin Ben-Eliezer called for an end to the boycott, saying it goes against, quote, the atmosphere we're trying to create in our region. But on the West Bank, Palestinian organizer Haytham Kayala was one of thousands of Palestinians taking part in a campaign to inform the public on which goods to boycott.
Today is Palestinian grassroots, volunteers, around 3,000 today who are leading this campaign, going around from house to house, providing people with the information needed that would help them get rid of settlement products, and they encourage them, of course, to replace it with Palestinian products instead.
South Korea has formally accused North Korea of torpedoing one of its warships in March, killing 46 sailors. The sinking could mark one of the biggest military provocations between the two nations since the end of the Korean War. The U.S. assisted South Korea with the probe. On Thursday, Defense Secretary Robert Gates said the U.S. is consulting with South Korea on how to respond.
We certainly support the findings of the South Korean investigation. We obviously are in close consultation with the Koreans. The attack was against one of their ships, and we will, naturally, they would have the lead in determining the path forward. They've laid out some paths forward, and we will be consulting very closely with them.
The exiled Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, is in New York this week for a series of public lectures. On Thursday, the Dalai Lama told an audience at Radio City Music Hall that he sees hope for the future of the planet and the outpouring of generosity following the 2004 tsunami and the January earthquake in Haiti.
When tsunami the disaster happened, and Haiti disaster, you see the response from the rest of the world, immense. Such response, I think early part of 20th century, impossible. So these are the signs we human beings becoming more sensible, and also they develop sense of oneness of entire 6 billion human beings. These are positive. Therefore, these are the sources of my optimism.
The prominent Cuban musician Silvio Rodriguez has been granted a visa to perform in the United States nearly 1 year after the State Department prevented him from entering. Rodriguez was unable to perform at Pete Seeger's 90th birthday celebration in May 2009 after his visa application was stalled. The new visa will allow him to perform at New York's Carnegie Hall next month. And Republican Congressmember Mark Souder of Indiana is expected to formally step down today after acknowledging he had an affair with a female staffer. Souder, who came in with the Republican Revolution of 1994, has long campaigned on a platform of family values. Earlier this week, Souder announced his resignation in a tearful news conference, admitting he had an extramarital affair with a staffer. Last year, he appeared along with the staffer in a campaign video promoting abstinence. Well, in 1998, I invited both Congress members Mark Souder and Bill McCollum on Democracy Now! Both were calling on President Clinton to resign over the Monica Lewinsky scandal. McCollum